Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Spring Into Pay As You Throw workshop. This meeting is for communities looking for a way to have an effective program, communities that have existing program, Pay As You Throw, smart programs, and communities that are looking at thinking about carts. This presentation will be recorded, but the back breakout sessions will not be. All of you are on listen only mode, and you can type in comments and your questions throughout the presentation in the chat box, which Janice will be there to review them. Please take a moment now and change your name to include your community or organization. If everybody remembers how to do that, we've been on Zoom for so long. If you go to the participation list in your name. I'm going to start here because we got a very fast agenda, which I'm going to go over in a minute. So I'm Irene Congdon. I'm the Central Mass Municipal Assistance Coordinator, and we're a team effort. The rest of the Macs are here with Todd doing polls and Janice taking notes, and you'll meet the others throughout the day. Our today's agenda, we will have a 2-hour program. I don't know if you guys see me. And I will be doing introductions. We'll be talking about the big picture. We'll have 6 communities in a municipal panel discussion, key elements for implementation, and a breakout session of curbside and drop-off. I wanted to share, I cannot believe this is my 21st year of being a MAC. And I counted my list up, and I've actually helped 22 communities implement a type of pay-as-you-throw, either drop-off or curbside. And my newest one was Dunstable's 35-gallon cart program, which there's some great exciting news as of yesterday. I don't know if you saw, but we are definitely supporting carts, and the SMRP Sustainable Material Recovery Program is now live as of yesterday. And communities can apply for both the Pay-as-you-throw grant and the cart grant, and could be eligible for $50 per participating household. What a great incentive to take notes today and to talk to your MAC after the event. Okay, so what does responsible government look like? We have communities that are green communities. We have signed policies for green education. We have haulers and residents following their waste ban laws. We have communities having policies for equity and moving environment to a higher status in our communities. But we are still moving 2 million tons of trash a year to other states' landfills. We are pushing our waste to someone else's backyard. We need to take a stop and take note that there is one program that is known to reduce trash, reduce energy, promote personal responsibility, promote composting, reuse, repair, and it's fair. I'd like to share that this program works. Like I said, I helped 22 communities do it. I have had communities with over 2,000 pounds to 2,400 pounds of trash per year per household go to 900 to 1,200 pounds of trash per year. And it does matter where you start. That is why later in the presentations, we will ask you what your pounds of trash per household was in 2021. But the big question that always comes up, how do you do that? How do you drop 500 to 1,000 pounds per household? The concept of pay-as-you-throw is truly a change of how we structure the payment of a bill. It allows the resident to have control over their bill. They pay by how much they dispose of, and it is that simple. By having the bags, it is a weekly game of look. You actually take a moment, a pause, and look what you are going to throw out. You see that others in your household dispose of items that could have been reused and recycled. And you work to complete the game by not buying more bags or buy smaller bags. Or you use your cart and you don't have to buy overflow bags. This personal responsibility is key. This accomplishes all of your town's environmental goals, and it does it in a sustainable and economic way. Know that your hauler has different goals. Their goal is to move the material and to follow the contract. The pay-as-you-throw program works with the 3 E's. For communities and for residents, you both have economy, you save the money. Environmentally, you save the resources, and equity for being fair. As well as there are 3 C's, which are more for the state and the world. The capacity of our landfills or our waste energy facilities, the climate change, and the cost are all reduced by this program. It is just amazing how fast it works. I've been a part of the waiting in communities, the consensus building, the push of residents one way or another. But when they finally take the leap, when you take a change and you go pay as you throw, the residents, the Board of Selectmen, the mayor, and the staff say it was easy and it was worth it. And we'll hear about them from some of them later today. We have 155 pay-as-you-throw communities in Massachusetts, of which 18 are 35-gallon programs. It does work. Your MAC is here to help you find the right program for your community and help you answer the big question. Where do we want our public funds to be used? For 80% of what we throw out now could be diverted. And so we're here today, and I am going to introduce our first presenter. And this is Rachel. She is from Mass DEP. So if we can have her come on up.
You see my screen, everyone? Yes, no?
No, not yet, Rachel.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel Smith. I work in the municipal recycling branch at Mass DEP. I started here in March 2019, and I became the lead staff person in Boston, working on our pay-as-you-throw grant program. So PAYT is what I'm going to refer to it throughout the presentation. It stands for Pay As You Throw. It's considered the top tier waste reduction program. I'm going to give a high level overview of what PAYT is and how it can work in different communities. So what is PAYT? Many of you are already familiar with the concept, but for those who are new, it's a solid waste program where residents pay a per unit fee for disposal of household trash, and they don't pay a direct fee for recycling. Sometimes it's called SMART, so save money and reduce trash. Sometimes it's called a waste reduction program. But no matter what you call it, PAYT is a great option for municipalities to consider because it will reduce your trash. And it can easily be combined with other solid waste programs, such as bulky item collection, mandatory recycling requirements, and organics collection. Mass DEP published its 2030 Solid Waste Master Plan in October 2021. The plan includes goals to reduce disposal by 30% by the year 2030 and 90% by the year 2050. So as you can see, these are really ambitious goals. So what does this Solid Waste Master Plan have to do with PAYT? Well, PAYT is specifically called out in the plan as one strategy to reduce waste in the Commonwealth. And with that, Mass DEP has committed to promote and provide financial and technical assistance to municipalities to implement these programs. As Irene noted, as many of you know, PAYT is the single most effective tool to reduce waste and increase recycling. We have the data to support this in Massachusetts. Nationwide, there is data that supports this. Basically, somebody's going to hesitate before throwing something in the trash. So you want them to stop and think if there's a better option for disposal. So when they have to pay for the trash and they have a financial stake in the game, they're really going to pay attention to what they're throwing away. PAYT is equitable. Just like utilities, residents pay for what they use. In a traditional tax-based or flat fee system, a 6-member household pays the same amount of money for trash as a 2-member household. So even though the 6-member household likely generates a lot more waste. There are several environmental benefits associated with PAYT. First, it reduces the amount of trash sent to landfills and incinerators. And we all know Massachusetts has a disposal capacity issue. But even more importantly, this reduced disposal, reduces emissions of greenhouse gases and other air pollutants. It helps protect your health and also conserves land, air, water, and other natural resources. There are financial benefits, both from increased recycling, and we know now recycling markets have really rebounded. So some municipalities may be getting paid for recyclables now. And then also, of course, the avoided disposal fees. In 2020, the average disposal fee in Massachusetts was $85 a ton. And preliminary data for 2021 shows that prices are continuing to rise. So any diversion can save you a lot of money. And then finally, I'll just mention that it signals the true cost of solid waste management. So as I mentioned earlier, it gets the residents to think instead of just mindlessly tossing things in the trash. So the good thing about PAYT is that it's a very flexible program. There are lots of options for municipalities, and you can really choose the program that's right for you. Imprinted trash bags are the most popular in Massachusetts. They're usually really bright colors. They're imprinted with the town name or seal. A benefit of this program is that it's really easier to spot and enforce. The bags are sold in local stores. The cost of the bag is meant to cover the disposal fee. We're not going to get into the details now, but in Massachusetts, the fees range from $1 per bag to over $6 per bag. And it really just depends on the municipality and the other funding mechanisms that are involved. Some municipalities use stickers or tags that can be affixed to a regular trash bag that's purchased by the resident. This is less common. It's harder to enforce. It's harder to kind of keep people honest about it. But it's one option that municipalities may consider. And we have at least 25 municipalities in Massachusetts that have a sticker or tag program. And then finally, there's what we refer to as a 35-gallon cart program, or trash cart or trash barrel. And it's basically a program that allows trash to be placed in a container less than 35-gallon size. So let's talk a little more about that. There are two basic types of containers, a barrel or a trash cart. Each have some advantages as shown here. I will say that most municipalities are moving away from the barrels in favor of automated trash carts. The carts have wheels, attached lids, they're much sturdier, which makes them suitable for automated collection by a curbside trash truck. And also the carts are what is eligible for grant funding, which I'm going to talk about a little later on. What we call a hybrid PAYT program is gaining in popularity. It's becoming more common in Massachusetts. There are about 40 municipalities that have some kind of hybrid program. Sometimes it's referred to as modified PAYT. And basically, it means that instead of paying for every single bag of trash that you throw away, you might get one free each week. So one free bag, one free sticker, or your trash cart. Anything over that one unit, you'll have to pay for. And so basically, this program works by having a flat fee that's combined with a unit-based fee. So the flat fee covers fixed cost, and the unit-based fee, which is the per bag or per sticker fee, will cover the variable cost associated with the additional disposal. So in basic level service, residents get one unit included for free each week. Again, anything excess, they pay for. PAYT can work in both curbside and drop-off municipalities, as well as communities that have both of these options. This is a breakdown of the program types in Massachusetts. You can see that while there are less curbside PAYT programs, the ones that are operating are actually servicing more people. This is largely because the bigger communities in the state have curbside pickup, whereas the smaller, more rural communities have a drop-off program. They are less populated, but certainly represent a fair portion of the overall PAYT participation. This map is just meant to show visually how PAYT programs look across Massachusetts. You can see in the central and western part of the state, as well as the Cape, a lot of them are drop-off programs, but more towards the eastern part, a little bit of central has curbside programs. So what else can we say about PAYT in Massachusetts? Currently, there are 155 programs in the state, representing about 27% of households. Since I've been working at Mass DEP, we've had about 1 to 2 municipalities each year start a brand new PAYT program. So for example, Swampscott is a curbside program that started in September of 2020, and Weston is a new drop-off program that started in October of 2021. We've also had a few municipalities change their program elements. And an example of that is Malden, that recently upgraded their PAYT program from using all bags to a 35-gallon trash cart. The most important thing, however, when looking at these statistics in Massachusetts is that PAYT gets results. In general, trash is reduced between 25 to 50% in communities with PAYT. In 2020, which is really the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, municipalities with PAYT programs generated 29% less trash than those without PAYT. So this averages to about 517 pounds less per household. This is what Mass DEP calls its map of pride. It's meant to visually show how much trash communities in Mass generated. The data is from 2020. It's a little bit higher than in previous years, both for pay-as-you-throw and non-pay-as-you-throw munis, likely because COVID. But the point is, if you look closely, the municipalities that are designated as PAYT that have the little hash marks, they're usually in the green and yellow range. There's a few that are light orange, but the municipalities without PAYT are orange, red, or really dark red. Again, PAYT munis averaged 1,239 pounds of trash per household, compared to those without PAYT, who averaged 1,756 pounds of trash per household. So it's really a big difference. Don't let anybody tell you cart size doesn't matter, because it does. To break this down even further, Mass DEP looked at the trash tonnage for municipalities based on the size of their trash collection cart. And what this shows us is that it really matters. The municipalities with full PAYT programs that require residents to pay for every single unit of trash they throw out performed the best at 1,102 pounds per household per year. That's averaged. This followed closely by the hybrid PAYT programs, most of who use the 35-gallon trash carts. And then you can see how the trash goes up after that, noting a pretty significant jump once you get past the 48-gallon carts and you move into the 64 gallon sizes and higher. Again, here's a visual representation of trash tonnage when we look at cart size. And you can see clearly here that the municipalities with the pay-as-you-throw or the lower size trash carts have much less trash than the municipalities with the 64 or 95-gallon carts. And in fact, municipalities with the 64-gallon carts average 26% more than the 35 and 62% more than the ones that are full pay-as-you-throw. As previous couple slides show, full pay-as-you-throw offers the highest level of waste reduction and cost savings for municipality, but it's important not to discount the hybrid pay-as-you-throw approach. So particularly when it comes to curbside municipalities using 35-gallon carts. The truth of the matter is that the hauling industry is moving toward automation, which means that companies are starting to require or recommend carts for municipalities in their new curbside contracts. However, many of these companies are trying to influence municipalities to procure 64-gallon carts. One reason is that the larger carts are, have less chance a resident will have to use an overflow bag. So This is bad for waste reduction, but it's good for the private industry. They don't have additional labor costs associated with someone having to get out of the truck to grab a bag. And the biggest reason is that it's a financial incentive for the hauler. More trash tonnage equals more money, and the larger cart sizes mean the residents are going to be throwing away more trash. And so then the hauler is going to get more money from all the tip fees. So Mass DEP recommends municipalities request 35-gallon carts in any new bids and contracts. The size of the cart meets the needs of most households most of the time. The overflow is typically only needed on occasion, and there are more than 18 municipalities using 35-gallon carts in Massachusetts. The list is growing each year, and you can see here, just how much they range in size. There's some very small towns and some large cities, so it really can work anywhere. Oops. So now that we know how successful PAYT is, why doesn't every single municipality in Massachusetts implement a program? Well, there's some challenges. Much of the challenge is actually a political one, which we don't always have a lot of influence over. However, there's a few challenges here that are often noted, and there's some ways that municipalities can address them. The biggest challenge and argument against PAYT is the bag fees and added tax. And so what people might not understand is that they're paying for trash disposal regardless. So the way PAYT works is that they just see the fee. The good news is that they have some control over it. By reducing the amount of trash they generate, municipalities can further address this issue by reducing the property tax or the annual fee that residents previously paid by the amount that the unit-based fees are expected to generate. So it makes the program revenue neutral. Residents are still paying for solid waste disposal. They're just paying for it in a different way. With PAYT, as residents pay for the amount of trash they generate, some people are going to pay less than before, and some people might pay more. For lower income households, especially those with large families, this could be an issue. A lot of municipalities address this by offering low rates for lower income households, senior citizens, veterans. Some of them give out a certain number of free bags each year. Mass DEP recognizes this issue, and we encourage municipalities to take this into consideration. As part of our RDP program this year, we've added a new category called Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in Recycling Programs. And so one of the eligible activities towards getting a point for this criteria is for the muni to offer a reduced or subsidized PAYT bag or sticker fee for low-income residents or residents experiencing hardships. A lot of people think that once residents start paying attention to what they're paying for trash, it's going to increase illegal dumping. And what studies have shown is that, unfortunately, illegal dumping is going to happen with or without PAYT. It doesn't really make a difference. It's usually white goods, TVs, C&D waste, kind of large items that people might have to pay extra for anyway. It's not great news, but it's also not linked to PAYT. So the key to address illegal dumping is just to have regulations in place to act promptly and impose fines if needed. Finally, higher administration costs are often cited as a challenge. It's true, setting up a new program is going to require more time and effort. Even maintaining an existing program takes some effort, which we're going to discuss later because you want to check in regularly and make adjustments to the program if needed. You're going to need someone to order the bags and stickers, someone to enforce the trash limit, someone to answer questions from residents. So it sounds like a lot. Not saying it isn't, but the reality is that all the extra costs from administration actually end up being canceled out by the cost savings from reduced disposal. And Mass DEP does have grant funding to help offset these costs when a muni is going to get started on a new program. So that's what I'm going to talk about next. So the first grant I want to bring your attention to is our technical assistance grant called a TA grant. It consists of 80 hours of dedicated in-kind technical assistance from your MAC. We offer several types of TA grants, including one that's specifically focused on PAYT. The benefits of having a PAYT grant is that the MAC can help you with program planning, such as determining what an appropriate cost structure would be, what the bag fee would be. As we mentioned before, the type of program can be kind of political. There are strong voices in both favor of and against PAYT. So the MAC can support you through this by attending your meetings, helping with your presentation, providing other outreach and educational support. Implementation is the trickiest part, but it's also the most necessary part of a successful PAYT program. So the MAC can help walk you through all the steps of figuring out the logistics of the program and helping to develop a draft implementation plan. The implementation plan is going to be necessary for municipality if you hope to receive additional funding from Mass DEP through our SMRP grant. So Mass DEP offers the financial grants through the Sustainable Materials Recovery Program. As Irene noted, this was released yesterday. The grant program, the application period closes on June 15th. As you can see here, the amount of funding for pay-as-you-throw programs, it varies. It's largely dependent on the size of community and number of households served, as well as the type of program you're going to implement. Funds may be used to cover the cost of bags, a 35-gallon or smaller trash cart, educational materials, program coordinator, other Mass DEP approved startup cost. You can see here the 35-gallon trash carts are expensive. But they're an investment. And so the $30 per household award for these curbside cart programs is really meant to offset this cost. Another funding opportunity for pay-as-you-throw can be realized through the Recycling Dividends Program under the category for solid waste reduction. This year, all municipalities are eligible for RDP, so you should all be taking advantage of this and applying, even if you only get 1 point, but especially if you get a PAYT program, because that's where most of the points are. As you can expect, RDP points in this category follow a waste reduction program hierarchy, with full PAYT programs awarded 5 points. This is an increase from previous years when the maximum used to be 4. A hybrid program, the modified program where you get 1 free, is valued at 4 points. Doesn't matter if it's a bag, a sticker, a cart. The 35-gallon carts get 4 points. 48 gets 3 points. Anything higher than that gets nothing. In previous years, we did have an option for 64-gallon carts, but what we found, and what you remember from the bar chart shown earlier, is that municipalities with 64-gallon carts didn't really have a significant reduction in trash. I'll point out here that there are other SMRP grants offered. One is for recycling carts. You can get up to $20 per household. A new prerequisite for this year is that only municipalities that have PAYT programs or use 35-gallon carts are eligible for the recycling cart funding. But you can get both if you're doing both. And then finally, I just want to mention that there are a lot of other ways that municipalities can reduce their waste, and that, you know, waste reduction programs that can complement PAYT. These programs are going to help to reduce the trash tonnage, and they have other benefits, including points for RDP. So these are other ways that you can complement your PAYT program and get some incentives. So that's all I have. Here's my contact information. Always feel free to reach out if you have questions about PAYT, especially about the grant programs. Your MACs are great resources. Many of them have been helping munis implement PAYT for decades. And so they can really answer some of the more nuanced or detailed questions you have about implementation. And our website is listed here. It has a lot of helpful resources such as fact sheets, maps, case studies, and it can provide, you know, some additional background information about PAYT. So you can check that out as well.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Yep.
Janice, do we have a few questions for Rachel?
There were a couple questions, but I think they were answered in her presentation. And then there was one that I think we might be good for the panelists, but I'll just say it here just in case it was, how much higher are the administrative costs typically? And how would you categorize the costs excluding transition?
I don't have an exact number of how much the costs are typically, but definitely it's the first year or two of the program would be the most expensive because you're rolling it out and you have the outreach and education aspect.
Okay, and then there was another one, I think you answered this, but I'll just go ahead and make sure that the person gets the answer. It was, are there any communities that have combined pay-as-you-throw and a 1 bin per household and pay-as-you-throw for any overflow from single bin per household? So basically, are there any that have like a bin and then, but you pay for the overflow bag?
Yes, so yeah, there are 18 carts, like 18 municipalities that have a cart that you pay, and then you would pay for the overflow bag of those bins or carts. And then there are even more that don't use carts, and you pay for all bags no matter what.
Okay, so I think we wanted to keep it at 2 for right now, just to make sure that we keep moving. So
Yep. So thank you for sharing your slides here, Rachel. And if we can have Todd share our first poll question. Okay, how much trash reduction on average do you expect? So if you can put in your amount there, that would be great. Click a single choice, please. A little hint is we had it in the slides above. We think we got, just do another minute. There's almost 80 of us here. Okay, I think we're stopping here. Let me go a little further, but okay. I think we'll stop the poll and share what people think. Todd? So people can see there that most people said 20%, and then the next group said 30%, and we had a group that said 18% said 10%, and then 40%. I'd like to share, most of my communities, especially drop-offs, went right away to 50%. So you have to plan, and that was one big lesson I learned with one of my first communities going, that we expected a 20% waste reduction. And the town said, no, we're just going to go 20%, and they went 50%. And so you have to plan for that you'll have a 50% waste reduction. So you always plan for bigger. And that's kind of the key is the revenue side, you plan for less, and you just try to make it as conservative because you never know. But most of it is 30%. 25 to 50% has been the average that we've seen. But some of those communities at 25 to 30% are communities that have already had some type of waste reduction. They didn't start off with unlimited trash. But when you have unlimited trash, be prepared that you'll have over 40%, 50% waste reduction. So thank you so much for sharing. We can close out the poll. I'd like to introduce, maybe I have to press my own. I'd like to introduce my counterpart, Julia from Northeast 3. And if you can wave your hand, because we want to get, she's going to be working with our panelists here. You have to unmute, Julia. And the panelists, I'll introduce you all. If you can wave your hand so we can get you to be on the screen. Meg from Brewster is our volunteer coordinator that has helped move that pay-as-you-throw program. And Christine from Holliston has also been a volunteer that has helped move their 35-gallon program. Heather from Lunenburg is the town administrator that has a full pay-as-you-throw curbside program. Ron from the city of Malden is the DPW director for their 35-gallon curbside program. And Mira from Milton has their curbside program. And Paul from Sandwich as their drop-off pay-as-you-throw program. So if you guys can all unmute, some of you still have mutes there, and Julia will take it away.
All right, thank you, Irene, and welcome everyone. I'm going to share my screen right now and just show a quick, and I hope you can still see our panelists too, but these are all the towns, and this is just some data, and you can see that their start dates have ranged from as early as 1991 to 2013 for Brewster. But then Malden has a change that we'll talk about as well that has kind of remade their program. So I want to kind of dive in right now. And not all panelists have to answer every single question. If you feel like it's relevant or you want to interject something, that'd be great. But maybe for this first round question, maybe everyone can take a stab at it. What kind of trash and recycling program did your municipality have in place before you moved to a pay-as-you-throw model? And was there a specific motivation that moved the city or town to make the decision to move to pay-as-you-throw? And this might be you sharing some historic information with us that you were not around for way back when. But anyway, I'm going to start with Brewster. Meg, thank you.
Oh, okay, so our contract, we'd had a long-term contract with CMAS, but it was coming due. And so we needed to talk about how we would reduce the amount of trash. We thought we were doing pretty good in recycling, but when we first instituted it in 2013 then a calendar year later, we reduced the trash by 47%. And we increased the recycling by, I believe it was 27%, or yes, I believe it was 27%. So personally, I had come from a pay-as-you-throw community way back when I was back in New York State. So I knew all about it. I knew the value of it and what it could bring to a community. And so we just started as the Recycling Commission, exploring not just my old haunt back in New York, but lots of other places that were doing pay-as-you-throw, looking at the economics of it, and then working with town government to educate them, and then educating the public on it. And it's been working well ever since.
That's great. Thanks, Meg. Next, maybe Christine from Holliston. Maybe I'll go in alphabetical order.
Hi, I'm Chris, and I live in Holliston, and we started a hybrid pay-as-you-throw program back in 1999. I had just moved into town, so I don't have a lot of the history at that time, but we have a 35-gallon hybrid program with stickers, and I do believe it was all fiscal at that time is why we went to that. We also implemented a flat trash fee that we had on the books from 1999 to 2014. But I really want to talk about our cart program that we started in 2019. And the impetus for that was similar to Meg in the fact that we had the same trash hauler for over 30 years. And we just really wanted to go out to bid for a new contract, for a new, freshen the program and make the program a little more equitable. We were getting a little fat around the edges and people were not really adhering to the 35-gallon limit.
Great, thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Lunenburg with Heather.
Hi, Heather Lemieux from Lunenburg. I'm the town manager. So this predates me. I was not here back when we started the program. Started around 2000. The impetus at that time was all residents had private haulers for pickup service, and there were a number of complaints that their trash wasn't getting picked up. So it was a chief administrative financial officer at that time. He started the program, the Pay As You Throw program, and an enterprise account was created at that time for the program.
Great, thank you. And the next person is Ron Cochran from Malden.
Hi, so first of all, my title's communications director. I'm not the DPW director's Bobby Knox. So I'm here because I work on the grant side and I did the implementation of this most recent change that we had, which I'll talk about later. So I'll just talk about our pay as you throw. We went to pay as you throw. It predates my time here. It was back in 08. Excuse me. The numbers I have here are pretty staggering, actually. So we went from like a traditional anything goes trash collection program to a pay as you throw bag program back in 08. Recycling bumped to 74% and our solid waste tonnage was down 49%. This is year over year after the first year. Financial results were $2.5 million total to the city, which consisted of the solid waste disposal savings of about 800,000, which was, due to the shift in recycling. And then the revenue from the sale of the pay as you throw bags was 1.7 million. So it was a big turnaround for us. And it was a previous administration again that implemented it. And later on in our talk, I'll talk about this modification that we've made since.
Great, that's great. Those are great statistics, but not really that unusual either for cities and towns. Next, from Milton, Meera Patel.
Hi, so I'm the environmental coordinator, and obviously the Pay As You Throw program started much before I was here in 1991. There were two main reasons that it happened. One was that Milton really wanted to get a little bit more into recycling, which worked really well for at least the beginning of the program, and also the landfill closed down. So that was obviously a big problem. And we switched to the Simply Stickers program. And then a couple years ago in 2018, we switched to as someone was asking, we switched to the hybrid program, which has also helped a lot.
All right, great, thank you. And last but not least, I'm sorry. For some reason, I'm losing the spotlight. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute just to see everyone. Paul from Sandwich.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Paul Tilton, Town of Sandwich, DPW Director and Town Engineer. And similar to Brewster, initially we were looking at the end of our contract and we were concerned about the cost. The costs were anticipated to go up by 3 times as much as our contract back in 2010. So we had some concerns about being able to pay for that. And we really focused on cost avoidance and how can we avoid cost for solid waste disposal. The best way to do that is through recycling. So we looked at a bunch of different options for recycling, and we found out the most effective way to encourage people to recycle was to adopt pay as you throw. Our previous program was 50% tax subsidy and 50% sticker fee. We wanted to go to a full enterprise fund where the sticker fee and the bag fee covered all of our expenses. And we're at that point now. And our numbers are very similar to some other cities and towns. We saw a reduction in solid waste, about 47%, in increases in the recycling percentages as well.
Great. So, what was the biggest challenge? Some of you said a little bit, but if you can focus on this one, what was the biggest challenge in moving to pay as you throw, or to your newest variant of the pay as you throw program, and how did you overcome that obstacle or challenge?
I guess I can jump in on this one. So I think the biggest challenge was really the public acceptance. They were very worried about the cost that they had to pay. And what we did, we really focused on a PR campaign. We got the public information out there. We had many public informational meetings. Met with this Board of Selectmen frequently. The first week, I set up a tent at the transfer station to answer any questions people may have had. Believe it or not, but some people didn't know we had pay-as-you-throw when they showed up that first week. And we really emphasized that, these are user fees similar to utilities, gas, water, and it's very equitable. And we emphasize that the users control the cost. So I think once people understood that, they accepted the program more readily.
Great. I think that Ron, you look like you were going to jump in.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just, again, I'm not sure how if you wanted me to expand upon our variation of it now, or should I take the time later?
No, that's good. You can talk about, and what was that challenge in
Sure.
moving to your variation now, which you can say what it is too, the
Yeah.
35-gallon carts.
Yeah, so we decide we had a lot of resident feedback. So, obviously we're over a decade in pay as you throw. I can vouch for the challenges that was just covered by the previous speaker, that exactly the same. When you ask somebody to pay for something they didn't previously pay for, that's the fastest track to criticism, right? But after a while, it kind of faded and people just kind of assumed it was part of the thing. So when we were gathering feedback, it would always come up. There was a small contingent of people that tried to get signatures to do an override, put it to the ballot. It failed. It never really took. But what we found is when we were doing our polling, people had finally come along over the decade. They weren't concerned about the fee anymore. They sort of accepted it as, from what was talked about here, it's a service-based, right? So what became the topic was not the fee anymore, but rather the implementation. And so they just didn't like the bags. They didn't like the inconvenience of having to always have inventory at your house, or if there were bag quality issues or things like that. So what we decided to do was make a change to the program whereby we adopted 35-gallon wheeled carts, and we did a different kind of hybrid system. So our hybrid system is, we said, if you're a bag person and you like the bags, you can continue to do so. So you use our 35-gallon cart as merely like a secure receptacle. So the obvious problems are eliminated, like rodents and, litter and whatnot. So that was a big plus for us. But if you were a person that was anti-bag, we gave you another option, which was to buy an annual sticker. We called it a trash tag, and it was essentially just sticking on a $75 per year sticker to the front of the cart, which permits our residents to throw away standard household trash bags, Glads, Hefties, whatever. And the $75 we arrived at was a little bit incentive-based, because if you take a 35-gallon pay-as-you-throw bag and you multiply it times 52 weeks, that's about $104 on for an average of one bag per year. And our 75 represents like about a 25% savings. We figured it would come out in the wash, but we would dangle a little bit of an incentive, to go to the sticker program. The second thing that we thought was, if we shifted more people to stickers, we would have more compliance in general. Excuse me. And the way we thought that was, if you give folks, like a vessel, like a good, like, that's what we kept hearing. There was a lot of aesthetics involved. People just didn't like the bags thrown everywhere, right? And giving them the cart seemed to just incentivize them to have better compliance just by the orderliness of it. I don't know how to explain it, but there was just something to that. So the challenge that we have is, anytime you change anything to the program, it doesn't matter if you're giving away, free gold coins with every pay-as-you-throw card, somebody has a problem with it. And it becomes a real difficult thing politically to make a change to something because you become the mayor that made the change, So that's probably been our biggest problem. But what we did to overcome that was a huge communication campaign, constant reinforcement. And we're just staying on top of our residents. One of the things we love to do is we use the Recollect, which is we use them for trash notifications. So we stay directly in contact with our residents. But I'm going to leave it at that. I'm sure we'll cover more because I don't want to hog too much time.
Great. Now maybe go to Christine. I think that you probably have had similar challenges.
So again, I said we had a 35-gallon hybrid pay-as-you-throw program for years. And the Sustainability Committee joined together, or started really, to rebid the contract and to go to carts. That was kind of our goal. And I'm just looking at the challenges. It was alluded to a little bit earlier. Some of the challenges were honestly our haulers who are really pushing for the biggest cart. Our previous our contract and our new contractor both really were pushing for 64-gallon carts. And we as a sustainability committee was really pushing for 35, which is what we had, right? It wasn't like we wanted to go backwards. And the thing I wanted to say, again, the MACs were great. Kathy Mertzer was the MAC that helped us. And we did a survey in 2016 that just kind of looked at who was really abiding by the current project. And 41% of the community was, right? So 41% were playing by the rules, putting out a 35-gallon cart with a sticker. Another 48% were pushing out only to 50 gallons. So, we had about 90% compliance, give or take. I'll give them a little bit of wiggle room, right? So, we had this push from a certain percentage of folks, but really only 10% of the population who were using 65 or 95-gallon carts. So really it was equity. It was what we had on the books and we wanted to be equitable. And then we can get to the incentives that were alluded to. The incentives were key to sway our selectmen and our finance committee. So, the challenge for money was actually a good one, with the incentives Mass DEP had. And some of it was, again, the other challenge was misinformation. And just different opinions. Haulers have a different opinion than our sustainability committee had.
Great. Meg.
So, looking back on it, that one of the challenges during the educational process, because like the other speakers, we also did a lot of education of not only our select board, but our residents. At that time, we did have some haulers, some commercial haulers. But I think the biggest issue was equitability. What we heard a lot of, well, what about the big family? What about the single grandma, who lives by herself and doesn't even have a dog or cat? How are we making this equitable for everyone? And we went back and we tried to start explaining to people, look, you've been paying for this all along. Pay-as-you-throw actually does make it equitable because you're only paying for what you have to dispose of. And so what we did is we set up 3 different bag sizes. We did a 33-gallon, which holds about 25 pounds, a 15-gallon, which is around 12 pounds, and an 8-gallon, which is the smallest one we have. We did talk. Somebody wanted us to go even smaller than that. We said, no, that really wasn't realistic at that point. But again, we put it in place at the very beginning, $2 for the big bag, $1 for the 15-gallon bag, 50 cents for the 8-gallon. And we also reduced our permit fee. I believe at the time it was $145. We reduced that down to $40. So again, they automatically saw that they were getting a reduction, but they had to participate by reducing their trash. That's how they could get an even further reduction. We have in the subsequent years, we started at 45, we went up to $50. I think it was 2 years ago. So, but they just have to think of it as, you talked about it before, it's a utility. You're paying for what you're using. You're using that capacity.
That's great. So I love this panel because really every single program is a slightly different. So really, when we get to questions from the audience, take advantage of that. I want to just go to Mira, and maybe if you can even, if you don't want to, you could, I'm sure you have challenges right now too. But also tell us what's unique about the Milton program too in that.
So I would, just to kind of go over what everyone else was talking about, the education was a problem in the beginning, especially because people weren't necessarily sure how many stickers to put on, what to put on. And it was also an education for the haulers, knowing that if it doesn't have a sticker, if it's not in, and later on, if it's not in the bin, that it shouldn't be taken. That was the main thing. There was no illegal dumping. It wasn't really a problem. And then the payment, I think someone asked about the payment. Ours is a little bit more expensive. It is $156 per year if you are using the bin. And that was based on each sticker is $3. So 3 times 52, we're going to take it to $156. So whether you're using the stickers every other week, then that's good for you. Then you should use the sticker program. But if you're using a bin every single week, then it just makes more sense to go to $156.
Great, great. And Heather, anything to add there? Challenges in Lunenburg?
Yeah, so we've had the same type of program since inception, was just the bag program, where consumers purchase rolls of bags. So that part really has been consistent. But I would say the biggest challenge is changing haulers. We had a 10-year contract with Casella and recently went out to bid and received one bid for a new curbside collection company. And that transition, I'd say, was a big challenge for the town as far as communication, education, the new hauler learning the routes of curbside pickup. And another piece of the education I'd say is continual, is a contamination piece that educate the public about what's recyclable and what's not recyclable. So we did a Recycling IQ Kit grant program a couple of years ago, and that was really good results from undergoing that process. But I'd say that is a continual piece of the program, is to make sure that people are recycling properly.
Yeah, as they divert more from trash to recycling. So that kind of dovetails a little bit into my next question, which is, how did Mass DEP help and what resources helped the most? Did you get any other help outside of Mass DEP too? All right, Christine.
So I think I already alluded to the MAC, and Kathy Mertz really helping us. But we were really fortunate. We have on our sustainability committee, we had myself, who I do this professionally for work too. I work in the sustainable materials management world. And we also had Mike Lavin, who was the DPW director at the time for the town of Rentham, who literally wrote our RFA and RFP for new contract services. So we were really fortunate to have some really good, internal help. And we also had a great marketer on our team who helped with the education and outreach. So those were, we had kind of a nice harmonic convergence.
Yeah. So you pulled a team together from both expertise like Kathy Merza and then people in town. That's really great, because who you put on that committee really makes a big difference. Did you get any grant funding from Mass DEP?
Yeah. So when it comes down, we're talking about challenges. So we put out the new FRP for 35-gallon carts. We missed one town meeting, and 64-gallon carts were on the table. So we had to scurry and really make the money case at that point in time to the selectmen. And we had some very vocal residents and other members of the community who just wanted bigger carts because they look nicer and they thought they were better. And so we did put together a really nice one-page fact sheet. And I was just looking at the numbers this morning preparing for this. We saved the town about the grants gave us about $250,000. to purchase carts. So when you're trying to sell a cart program, and many of our surrounding towns have carts, so people were kind of familiar with the carts and they kind of liked them, when you're driving through Midway, when you're driving through Hopkinton. So the carts were a sell for a lot of reasons. But when you put a $250,000 chunk of change on the table, that gets people's attention. So we got, I believe it was $30 for the trash cans and $20 for the recycling carts for a community of about 4,600 people. So show me the money. And it was very compelling at that point in time.
All righty. Sure, Mira.
We only did it off of Mass DP grants. We got about $250,000 for the trash and almost $200,000 for recycling. And the way we do it is that you have to pay $156 for the trash, and then again $3, just to clarify, and then $3 stickers for overflow. But the recycling cart, we give you one free, so that we're trying to encourage, instead of just throwing it all in the trash and slapping a sticker on it, try to put it in recycling.
How about you, Ron?
Yeah, Malden was a big recipient. Wouldn't have done it without the funding from DEP. There's no question about it. We had to do a little bit of a dance because our hauler was not permitting us to make these changes to the contract. They considered them substantial changes to the contract. So we were doing a big dance for a couple of years. So we had approval of pay-as-you-throw smart grant funds, but we had to kind of carry these over a couple of years while we were negotiating with our hauler, and then COVID was in the middle of it all too. But yeah, like I said, invaluable. We did seek an outside partnership with the recycling partnership. They assisted, they were fantastic. So we got some of our early materials covered by them, and where they were invaluable was they have done these implementations so much, they've standardized all their communication about cart rollouts. So we basically just use their templates, and we just kind of Maldenized, their templates. And then they knew all the timelines that we should follow. They knew the messaging, how to keep it simple. It was invaluable to use their expertise.
Great. And your Mac helped you do that, right?
So
Get
I
those-
wanted to leave that was for the best part for last. So Gail, who I love, our current Mac, was not a part of that, but I'll bring a legendary name in this space, and that's Sharon Kashida, who's like single-handedly responsible for just about everything good that has happened in this city related to trash and recycling. She's one of my favorite people of all time. So
Great. Yeah, we have to give a shout out to Sharon. So I see a conversation going on in the chat about fees. Everybody wants to know about fees, when to raise them, how you do them. So I see that Paul and Meg have answered a few of that, but do people want to talk about fees? And even if you have a cart program, if you're watching the overthrow bag sales as well, or the fees you charge there,
I can talk a little bit about the overflow bags. And so we implemented our program July 2019, so right before COVID. And Ron, I wish we had a little help. We had a lot of bumps in the road on the implementation, and no matter the best planning, right? We didn't have enough time, or I didn't think we did. We could have used more time. But with that said, our overflow bags really aren't as crazy as you would think. They're only $2. But we have in 20, I just want to make sure I get the numbers right. In 2019,
Christine, real quickly, $2 for what size bag?
That's a good question. I'd say about 35 gallons.
Okay.
Yeah, well, so it's a sticker fee, right? So it's a little bit trickier. You can put it up pretty much on anything and they're going to pick it up, right?
Okay.
So you can put it on rolled carpet. You can put it on really the biggest bag you want. They'll pick it up. So it's a little tricky. There's no standardization to that. And so anyway, we only in 2019 we used 6 stickers per household. 2021 9 stickers per household. So not a lot. But the one thing I think that we could work on, and our numbers are a little disingenuous, is we include bulky waste in our number of, tons per year. And our bulky waste is free. So you can schedule a pickup. So, if you looked at the original walk of shame or walk of opportunity map, we're a little bit in the orange. And I think that's why, and that we didn't have the political appetite to change that. And that's a flaw in our program, I believe.
Yeah.
So next steps.
Well, trying to figure out where to, how to take those next steps, because you're probably correct. That's probably what the issue is. Anyone else about fees and tweaking? Meg? Oh, and then Heather. Yeah.
Just kind of in response to a comment Christine made. So when we instituted pay as you throw, we also instituted pay as you throw on the bulky and strange items. And so we did everything all at once. And again, we really we worked really hard at educating people that it really was their trash. And so they had some obligation to help manage it by paying for the cost. We did a lot of analysis. We have a good Mac now, which is Carrie, but we had a good Mac then, which was Dave Quinn. And he did a tremendous amount of analysis for us on everything. And so each year we look at our fees. We also look at the fees for the bags and the permits, but we also look at the, what we've spent on getting rid of some of the bulky stuff too. And if we have to raise it, we do, but we've been pretty consistent because we offset a little. So if scrap metal is really paying some nice revenue, we can use that to offset the C&D and therefore not necessarily raise the rate. So, but it is an annual analysis that we have to do.
Great. Heather,
So
and then Paul.
Thank you. In Lunenburg, our recycling and the town's disposal costs is in the operating budget. The pay-as-you-throw bags for residents. We do a financial analysis as well. Every year we look back at historical cost to operate the program, the cost of purchasing the bags from the retailer. We have a retailer bag distribution program as well. So it's we used to have it where the DPW sold the bags to different stores within town, but now it's directly shipped to our retailers. So that associated cost and what we dispose of, so the total cost of the program to run, and we figure out per bag cost that way.
And that's great that you're always looking at it, because sometimes towns forget to keep on top of that. Paul, how about you in Sandwich?
Yeah, very similar to some other towns here. Initially, we performed a very detailed financial analysis. I've got about 40 spreadsheets that breaks down the anticipated tonnage, the family size, the expectation of the users, and what size bags they would use. And we essentially just figured out what our costs were and made sure that we covered all of our costs through bag fees and sticker fees. Each year we do the same analysis. I'm actually at the point now where we have an automatic annual increase. I was going in front of the selectmen so often that they said we should introduce just an automatic fee because the fees are going up. Recycling market was down. So let's just get a annual amount in there. And if we have to adjust that, we will. So right now, what they approved was either alternating each year, a $5 increase on the sticker fee. 1 year, and the following year, we'd increase the bag fees by 5%. And we'll take a look at that each year to make sure it covers our costs.
Great, thank you. I think we lost Meg. But now I'm going to ask Janice. We only have a couple of minutes left. I knew this was going to be so popular. Everybody wants to hear from actual municipalities. Do we have any other questions in the chat? Maybe one at least.
And I also want to say we haven't raised the $2 fee in 20 years on the sticker. So, listening to you, I think there's another opportunity for us there.
All right. Sorry, Christine. I was trying to find my mute button, but I'm glad you were able to make your comment. There was some question early on about whether or not, if you had like a robust recycling program or other diversion, would the pay-as-you-throw basically, produce a greater amount or like a less amount of trash. And so I feel like that. And then there was like kind of a similar question was, does it increase the amount of contamination in the recycling? So maybe we could talk about those two.
I don't have specific numbers, but we did it partially because of the landfill, but also because we wanted more recycling in our town.
We haven't done any analysis on the wish cycling, right? Though we do the education. Again, we had a really, robust using the recycling tools from the state. But we have never really gone into, a real deep analysis on recycling contamination. I would imagine we're just as bad as most, or just as good as most.
I would say one of the biggest lessons I learned with contamination analysis is that I was putting far too little pressure on the hauler to come up with consistent, measurable ways of actually saying what contamination was. And what we found was we did a visual audit at one point when we were doing we also did Recycle IQ as well. And when we went up to JRM's Greenworks facility, we took basically made them sort in front of us. And I know that was miserable for them. And we forced them to do it anyway. And what we found is when we walk out the door, they're just taking a scoop of a front end loader and doing a contamination declaration. Mm-hmm. So I think if I had a wish list back to the DEP would be including in the regulations some more consistent way of measuring contamination so that we at least know what we're all talking about from town to town, hauler to hauler.
Good point. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Paul?
I just, put
a plug sorry, in. Heather.
I'd put a plug in again for the Recycling IQ kit program. That was key for Lunenburg at that time. We hired, people called them the recycling police. So we had people go around curbside, but people got to know them. And it was really a lot of good feedback actually, was people were surprised what they thought were recycling materials that weren't. So I think it was eye-opening for a lot of people. And we saw a huge reduction in contamination. And attending the audit myself, in the end of the project, when the hauler said this is the best audit that we've seen, was really rewarding itself as well.
Great. From my standpoint, I would agree with Heather that monitoring is key. We've always had monitors watching the disposal, and you do have people that are going to try to beat the system. They're going to try to lower their costs in other ways. We've seen people put trash underneath the recycling in their bins, try to throw it all in. We've also seen some people buy fake bags. You can I shouldn't say this, but you can buy any color blue bag you want. And we've caught people doing that as well. So it's all about monitoring. We really didn't see an increase in contamination because that would resulted from CMAS rejecting our loads. So we really didn't see any increase in contamination.
Thanks.
Great.
Going back, Julia, to the first question, which was if you have a robust recycling program, does it result in lower trash? I guess another question that I kind of want to ask so that maybe the panel can answer this way. Does pay-as-you-throw open up any more doors to diversion? So like perhaps food waste collection or other bulky waste, there's a lot of stuff in the trash that could be diverted that's not recycling, that wouldn't go in the recycling. So I'm just curious, does it open any doors that way?
Christine.
So when we were doing this, we really looked at the food waste issue, and that's an issue that's near and dear to my heart. Like I said, I do this work professionally, but we just thought it was too much to take on, right? We were pushing uphill a little bit. And just by the grace of the good gods, we had a woman who contacted me who said, why aren't we doing food waste collection? This is ridiculous. I'm like, go for it. So we do have food waste collection now. And that was really brought on by a single person in the community who started that. And then the community has now adopted and promoted that. So that was a really nice unintended consequence. that happened. And we were totally supportive of as a committee, but a little shy of, you know, implementing it ourselves. So it was a win-win.
Great.
We also implemented composting or organics. When we first started the Pay As You Throw program, we also, with DEP grant, bought a whole bunch of home composting containers, which we encouraged. We had outreach opportunities. We encouraged everyone to, you know, home compost. But then more recently, a couple of years ago, we started accepting organics at a special collection bin up at the transfer station. And again, always selling it as, this is one more thing that you're taking out of your Pay As You Throw bag. So people got it.
Yeah. Cool, Ron.
I think it's important too. Why I think it helps is diversion is, I mean, it's really simple calculation. The less weight that's in the bag, the less you're going to pay. So as long as what you do on diversion is not, you're not like further somehow subtly charging a resident for it. So, you know, like we have textiles, free collection, right? Take the clothes out of the bag, it's free. Recyclables, take it out of the bag, it's free. Food waste, that's tricky because sometimes you might not be able, you might have to subsidize, or you might say to somebody, oh, you have to pay, you know, bootstrap compost $10 a month. So you're not really saving them. It's what's more the conscientious people that are taking advantage. But I think at its most basic level, if you just make it free, then yes, Pay As You Throw, huge help with diversion.
Paul, how about you?
Yeah, I would add to that, we have some quantifiable results. Our leaves and grass composting went up about 30% after Pay As You Throw, and our clothing recycling went up about 8%. So significant results in that regard.
Yeah, so important to have these diversion opportunities. Mary, you have something to add?
I was just going to say, we do have our textile recycling program, which goes really well due to that, I'm assuming. And also we do bulky items, and that's based on what it is. And it's essentially usually 3 stickers, or it's a $35 treasure sticker.
Great. All right, I'm looking at the time. Do I have, how am I doing on time, Irene?
I know we're pretty much there, but I wanted to see if we could have the communities that have 35-gallon carts. We got from Holliston how many overflow bags, but do we know from Milton how many overflow bags you were doing per household?
No, they have stickers.
Yeah, sticker. Oh, so that was hard to know because you used stickers. Did we know for Malden?
No, it's too tricky for us at this time to analyze that.
Okay, no problem. But I do think it is very small amount. I have that in Dunstable of very few that even have an overflow bag. The one thing I did want to just share is how to get, the hardest part is always to get to guests, and how Holliston, Christine, you shared that the hauler did the survey to see how many households, to know that 90% were already in compliance to go to the cart, you know, they were right there, but they just needed to tweak a little bit and they would be easy into a 35-gallon cart. And so I think that's key, to know where your residents are. They might have big carts, but kind of opening them up and see how many bags in there. If they only have 2 kitchen bags, which I think is pretty much the average, a 35-gallon cart is perfect, you know.
Yeah, we didn't open up, Irene. We just did by the size. And, you know, and I want to say I was a little critical of our haulers, and they did do that very graciously and very willingly. So,
and I've used the tool for a townwide survey that you go through the census. So every year, January, everybody gets a census mailed to their house. We would work with the Board of Health or the DPW to send in a survey regarding how much trash are you currently putting out, and we put it in kitchen bag quantities. So is it 2 bags, 4 bags? And they'd put in how many bags they do, and most are under 3 bags of kitchen bags. And so it helps that kind of thing if you have a lot of people in support, to say, hey, 90% of the town are in support of this. Because we always have the naysayers that are the ones that are the local ones that come to town meeting and Board of Selectmen meetings saying, I can't live with this container. Even though I want us all to look back that pretty much from the beginning of time when trash was picked up at the curb up to 1999, they were all in 35-gallon containers. Your metal containers were 35 gallons. So these new 95, 64 are just from the 2000s. They weren't even, they're really still young. But thank you so much for all of your time. I think this is vital for us.
Great
to
job.
review of your different types of programs. So if we're
Thank you,
now-
everyone.
Thank you so much. We're going to now go to our second poll question. So if Todd can bring that up. And everybody, we asked you for a little homework here. What was your trash per household service in 2021? So what is your trash disposed per household that were served in 2021? Was it under 1,000 pounds, 1,000 to 1,200 pounds, 1,201 to 500, 1,500 pounds? So you guys have it there. Or over a ton at 2,000 pounds. So it kind of gives us an idea of where people are here. Let's see where we're at. We still have 74 people here on the call. It's a lot of good information. We will be giving you the slides for here, but you can always contact people and contact your MAC to help out. I'm waiting a little more. I think that is it. So we have quite a bit. Now it's popping up again. Okay. Let it keep on going. I feel like it stops and then. Okay, so I think that is it. We'll just close the poll question now.
Yeah,
Great.
maybe not everybody did their homework.
Yeah, that's okay. To know your homework is a lot of us have retrack. That's how we do all of our grant information. And you can go to retrack, and that's where the grant is now. That's just live, so you can get on there and look, but you can also look at your past data. I know a lot of new people have come into town and they might not even know. You can look on that of your survey, and it has in there how many households are served and how much trash. But this is great. Under 1,500, that's still a little high, but 20%, 40%, if you count those two, you're at pay as you throw, is 1,200 and below, that you have a good program. The 1,800 pounds, that's a lot of trash. And you still have some communities that are over 2,000 pounds. So that's something to work on, and that's why we're here to help you. So let's close this poll, and we're gonna have Kathy come and share her slides. And we've talked a lot about new programs, but we always have to go back. So even though we're doing the implementation plans, we've gotta keep on looking them over. I'm glad some of you talked about looking at your fees yearly. So thank you, Kathy, for sharing today. I don't think we can hear you. I think you have to unmute.
Okay, and can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Thank you. What a great panel discussion. I just enjoyed that so much. Even with over the years working with some of these communities, I learn more each time. So thank you all so much for doing that. And as all of you just heard on this panel discussion, there are many ways to craft your pay-as-you-throw waste reduction program so that it can be tailored to your community. So I'm going to just take a little time to help you think through some of the key elements your municipality would want to consider so that you can implement a program that's both successful and sustainable. First, and many of these were covered today, so I'm going to go maybe a little bit quickly, but just to highlight some important things. You'll really want to know your goals and understand your goals before you step into this process. It's really important for you to do that. Think about whether you're trying to solve a problem that you're currently having, or are you thinking, we really need to reduce our waste, we want to control costs, or maybe you're going toward automation. Maybe you want to lower your carbon footprint. Maybe you're a green community and you want to align your solid waste program with your climate change goals because you know that solid waste plays a very important role in that. Think about what your goals are and how you can bring people together to support those goals, that will really help inform your program change going forward. And as you begin to think about where you would begin in your community, if this is new for you, it can be really beneficial to get a pulse on the solid waste programs that are in your region, as several of our municipal panelists mentioned today. Take a look at what's going on in your neighborhood. Do any of those communities near you have pay-as-you-throw? And if so, be sure that you know what bag colors they might be using. You wouldn't want your bags to be the same colors as theirs because it could undercut both programs or confuse people. Do you or your neighbors charge for bulky item fees? I'm glad that that came up in our panel discussion as well. These are the items that don't fit into your trash bags, and they really should be thought of as a component of your pay-as-you-throw or unit-based pricing program. You also want to think about what complementary collection programs you or your neighbors have that you can employ to help divert materials from the trash, because this will really be a key to helping residents find success with pay-as-you-throw. Also look around to see your neighboring communities use carts for collection. We often find that residents want to be like the Joneses, and if they see carts in the next community, they may want carts in your community. But the key to carts for trash really is the size of those carts, as Rachel described very clearly in her presentation. So if your neighbors employ a pay-as-you-throw program, you'll want to get an understanding of where your municipality fits into this picture. So I wanted to show you with a few examples, one from Western Mass. This is a snip from that map that Rachel showed early on. The hash marks indicate that the communities are pay-as-you-throw. So you can see on Western Mass, all that green, those are pay-as-you-throw communities. And the green means that they're the lowest waste generators. And that town of Irving is right in the middle. And at the time when this was taken, they did not have pay-as-you-throw. And in Northeastern Mass, you can see Essex is pretty much surrounded by pay-as-you-throw communities. Now, in the ideal world, we may like to see pay-as-you-throw programs in general implemented on a regional basis, but sometimes it happens organically when your neighbors have pay-as-you-throw programs and that are effective, and that you're right in the middle, and you may want to align with them. And you certainly don't want to import any trash from communities around you if you're the only one without pay-as-you-throw. I recently learned from the MAC out in Western Mass, the MAC is the Municipal Assistance Coordinator, that the town of Irving on the left there recently went to a modified pay-as-you-throw program last August, and they're already experiencing a 30% reduction in their trash. So this type of impact is very common with pay-as-you-throw programs, as you've heard. Then when you turn your attention to your own community, you're going to want to look closely at the makeup of your population, because that's what you'll want to take into account, the needs of your various residents as you craft your program and think about how you want this to function. Do you have a substantial senior population? You'll want to keep in mind that they typically are the lowest waste generators. They may be on a fixed income, and many have expressed that they don't like big carts because they can be hard to handle. For others, you may have a lot of young families in your community. They sometimes want extra trash capacity if their family is growing. And they often need flexibility because over time, their family might grow and then shrink as well. You'd also want to be clear about service provisions for multifamily dwellings, apartments and condos. If they're part of your customer base, think about whether they use carts or dumpsters or curbside service, and how can pay-as-you-throw work for them. And please keep in mind your public housing and low-income residents. There are definitely ways to craft your program so that they can be included in pay-as-you-throw in an equitable fashion. So this slide here gives you a snapshot of what EP includes in our implementation guidance for pay-as-you-throw programs. So these are the key elements that I suggest that all communities keep in mind. And going through an implementation plan would be required of any community that wants and seeks a pay-as-you-throw grant. These elements can really help you find success and stability with your program. And so it's really important to take the time on each one. You'll need to know who the decision-making body is in your community, who can bring pay-as-you-throw to your program. What's your potential start date? You want to give yourself plenty of lead time on this. You want to really understand your operating budget very closely and consider how you will put together your financial structure. And I'll talk about that a little more in the next slide. Think about how you want to design your program, whether you're a drop-off transfer station, whether you're curbside program, whether you have both of those. Do you need special containers? Will you need pay-as-you-throw bags? How will you manage overflow? It's important, all of these elements. Then you may need to procure certain materials to make that work. You'll also need lead time for that as well, and have a budget that will allow you to do so, and consider the grants that can help support you in that way. Can't say enough about education. You want to start early and reach out in as many ways as you can possibly think of. You want to get public input. You want to make sure it works for people. You want to demystify any concerns that they have in advance. And we have so many great examples across the state that can really give you that information and that support so that you really can know what to expect. You'll also want to think about compliance and enforcement when you first implement the program. That's really important. You may want to have extra hands on deck if you're a transfer station, and have maybe volunteers there to help with education at the onset of a new program or with a change. Or with a new curbside program, you may want to consider part-time staff to help answer phones and just to be there as an extra point person out at the curb to teach people how to do it right. And last but certainly not least, think about the grants that are available to you. As mentioned earlier, there's technical assistance through DEP's program, and also a lot of funding to support these grants, because pay-as-you-throw are the top tier grants for DEP, and always have been as long as I've been here, which is a long time. One of the most critical elements, though, for this process is setting the fees appropriately and sufficiently, so that the program can evolve over time. And this was mentioned earlier briefly, that there are two primary cost areas that you want to consider as you set your resident fees. So your fixed fees are primarily comprised of your collection and transportation costs. And that would be, curbside pickup. It could be transportation from your transfer station to ultimate disposal. Often in those fixed fees, that would include the processing of recyclables. And a rule of thumb that we always go by is that you would want your fixed costs to have a predictable source of revenue to cover those costs, okay? You want to set your fees so that your fixed costs are always covered, because you'll always need that collection truck to come down the street. You'll always need that transportation of your materials, regardless of how much waste is being collected. On the flip side, you will have variable costs that are part of your program, and that's primarily the disposal of your trash, okay? And so we know that when you go to pay-as-you-throw, that your trash tonnage will change substantially. And so you want to set your fees so that it will cover the cost of trash in that cart or in that bag. You want it to cover the cost of that bag itself. But you also know you'll get revenue from the bags and tags that you sell. So all of that gets taken into account in the fee setting process. And as several of the panelists mentioned earlier, this is not something that's done once and put aside. We often recommend that you look at your tipping fee for trash 3 to 5 years out, and maybe use that as your basis for setting your fees for the bag, so that you don't have to adjust the fees every single year. That's one way to do it. Or you could adjust each year, as some municipalities choose to do. But you do need to revisit this every few years at a minimum. Municipalities use a number of different ways to fund these programs, and keeping in mind that you want the fixed costs to be covered regardless of the amount of trash that's managed. So for fixed costs, it's common to see those covered through the tax base, through some kind of flat fee, either for curbside pickup or maybe a transportation access sticker for the year, or a combination of those. There are even some communities that use all three of these combined to cover the fixed costs of the program. And then the variable costs are typically, and that's again, that trash disposal costs are typically covered by the bag fee or sticker fee and your bulky waste fees. Okay, and that allows for changes in the amount of trash and whether it's bag trash or bulky waste, and you'll still have enough revenue coming in to cover those costs if you set that up. It's really kind of an art form to set this up appropriately. Now I want to take a quick moment to kind of bring us back for a moment about what is still going on in the trash and why pay-as-you-throw programs are one of the best ways to reduce it, and why this continues to be so very, very important and on our radar. This pie chart shows data from 3 years ago. We'll be doing new sampling again in 2022, but every 3 years, the waste combustors in Massachusetts do a waste composition study to look at what we are still throwing out as trash. And this is the snapshot for the state from the 6 waste combustors from 2019. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor moving here, but if you look at the kind of bottom right quadrant, you'll see that paper, plastics, metals, and glass make up still close to 40% of what we're still throwing away, and organics are more than 25% of what we're throwing away. So much of this pie includes materials that we could be diverting elsewhere. Okay, so I bring this to your attention because we know that there's still so much more improvement for reducing trash, and we want to, reduce strain on our disposal facilities. So to help enable success in these pay-as-you-throw and waste reduction programs, you want to create opportunities for residents to divert as much material as possible to their highest value use and help keep that material out of the trash stream. Why? All sorts of reasons. And you can use some of these reasons and information in your outreach. By all means, it's great to educate residents about the waste bans. The fact that, your paper, cardboard, bottles and cans, the basic recyclables and hazardous materials are prohibited from disposal as trash in Massachusetts, and that our disposal capacity is shrinking. So we want to capture these materials, keep them out of the trash, and free up local capacity. We also know that the resources that we all use for the production of food and consumer goods contribute so substantially to climate change. The need to reduce our trash has never been greater than it is now. Communities of all sizes can provide some kind of access to a recycling drop-off or a CHARM, which is a Center for Hard to Recycle Materials. I use the photo in the top left with the blue cart. I think that is from Milton's program. You'll see that, the cardboard there's a need for a place to drop off cardboard. So it's from small communities to large. I highly recommend some place to bring it, even if it's a dumpster to have separated cardboard in. It has value, it's clean. We're generating a lot of it with online purchasing, and that's been the case since COVID. So I just, suggest that communities make sure you have a place to bring big pieces of cardboard. We also want to promote ways for residents to reduce, reuse, donate, repair, compost as much as possible. With organics comprising more than a quarter of the waste stream, as you just saw, we want to divert that to composting and anaerobic digestion. It'll benefit everybody, and it's often cost effective. The photos here on the right-hand side, the top right shows food scrap collection at Medfield's transfer station, and in the bottom right, that is from Swampscott, recently taken by Julia. Thank you very much. So they have a 35-gallon trash cart. This is the bottom right photo. I think that looks like a 64-gallon recycling cart. And then they have a private subscription for food scrap pickup. So ways to capture that material and help folks be successful with the program. You want to make it convenient. You want to do lots of outreach and ongoing outreach, multilingual outreach if that's needed in your community, and just stay creative with it. One last thing I want to mention here is you'll also need to manage the program in a coordinated way. Once you do it, you'll want to keep your eyes on it. And what does that mean? You want to keep educating folks on, you have all different diverse populations in most communities. Please use the Recycle Smart MA platform. We have so much information there. Social media, a boost for you, print materials, banners, posters, all sorts of things that you could use. And we love having a consistent message that we're using across the state because it helps reduce confusion about what to put in the recycling bin. So educate, educate. That information on Recycle Smart is available in 8 different languages as well. It's free and we'd love you to use it. Your hauler, if you have curbside collection, is also your partner. You need to work with them because every day they see what's happening on the street and with your program. They know best, really. So talk with them about compliance and communicating with residents. They can provide you a daily tag list where there are issues, and you can follow up directly with residents to kind of nip any issues in the bud. If you have a transfer station, the EP certainly recommends that you have private hauler regulations so that you can ensure that private subscription haulers are providing recycling service to all their trash customers. And I wanted to just shine the light on this, on the left, this trash tip here that I'm pointing to with my cursor. Recycling committee volunteers in Holliston, as Christine mentioned, they had a really good marketer. And at the beginning of the program, we went out and drove the routes and we'd see, you know, occasionally these, what they call snow cones, which is a bag of trash that really goes much too high in that cart and really isn't acceptable because that can actually fall off when the truck is trying to pick it up. So one of the folks on the committee just wanted to do these simple messages, the trash tip of the week. Don't do this with, you know, good and bad. And each week sent out some little tickler to bring attention to something in their program that they wanted to see improve. So I think all of you know that here at DEP, we really want to help you do this, whether you're transitioning to pay as you throw for the first time, whether you have an all bag program and you're thinking about going to automated carts, or whether you're a transfer station that is working on increasing participation, we want to help you. This is a map that shows where all the municipal assistance coordinator districts are in the state. And we have a bevy of resources on DEP's website as well. If you are seeking funding for a pay-as-you-throw grant, whether it's a first grant for you, pay-as-you-throw, or an upgrade to a new kind of program, you have to do technical assistance through DEP first. So definitely reach out to your MAC. And my last slide just has the links and phone numbers for each of your MACs. If you don't know who your MAC is, because we have had some new ones come on board, we have a fabulous team. The link up at the top here will bring you to DEP's website that you can put in your community and it shows you which MAC to reach out to. So that ends my slides, Irene.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for all this information. Janice, do we have any burning question or we can do that in the breakout session? Janice?
You know, I don't think there were.
Okay, because I think people want to get into the breakout session, but before we go to the breakout session, I just have some quick announcement. Next week is Earth Day. It is a great time to share with your community where your town is on the pounds per household, what policies you've already have adopted in town. Some people might not know that you have bag programs or styrofoam bans or just different policies that you have that residents should be aware of. We also have a webinar coming up on April 27th from 10 to 12 regarding the SMRF grant. So we're going to go more in depth on the grant for that. Now I want to thank you for your time because after the breakout session, we're going to leave from there. So if Todd's going to pick up, we have 2 breakout sessions, curbside, which Julia will be leading, and drop off, which Carrie will be leading. And if you have questions, please contact your MAC.
Hey, Irene, how long do you want me to set the timer for? Because I think we were supposed to end at noon, right? So
I
15.
know, so if it can be a little longer, if people want to stay in there, so if we maybe say 12:15, if people can definitely leave at 12, but if they want to talk, then they can have a little more time in the breakout session.
Okay, sounds good. I'll set them at 30 minutes. And then you'll just select your group that you want to be part of, whether it's curbside or drop off. And I'm going to open those up right
Okay.
now.
Great. Todd, as part of the thing, do I get to pick a room?
You should be able to go to breakout rooms and then hit that, I would think.
Julie, are you able to get into the room?
Irene, which one do you want to go into?
I wanted to go as all my communities that are here are curbside, so I was actually going to move to the curbside one.
All right, so curbside, there you go.
Yep, thank you.
Todd, if you can move me to that, it'd be helpful.
Curbside.
Yeah,
All right, here you go.
thanks.
Hey, Todd, can you put me in curbside too?
Absolutely.
Janice, thanks.
There you go. All right, if anyone else needs to be assigned to a room, let me know in the chat or just unmute yourself.
Hey Todd, this is Arlene. Can you hear me?
Yep. How you doing, Arlene?
I'm good. Am I in the curbside?
No, is that your one? Was that where you want to be?
Yes, please.
All right, I'm gonna send you there now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bill, I'm gonna send you to curbside. I'd love to be on curbside. Jim, all right, I'm gonna send you there right now.